If you are not already aware of the information that I'm about to share with you in this video, then this will be the most important thing you watch for the rest of your life. If you are a Catholic, a Christian, an atheist, or believe in the divine but have been suspect of what teachers have taught you in the past, and often wondered, where is God in all of this? Then this video is for you. In this video, we will reveal who the true Creator is, what His will is, and we will reveal the false Messiah, the Antichrist disclosed in the Bible. Now there are one of two things that will happen after you watch this video. One, your eyes will be opened and you will experience great joy and rejoicing in the truth. Or two, you will get mad and or dismiss it and cling on to the lies of the false teachers. I pray that you will watch this video all the way through and then study and validate for yourself what you have just watched. Many teachers will say, "Don't believe me." Well, I want you to believe what I am telling you, and I want you to take my word for it. But you must validate it and do the research yourself. The theme verse of this video is Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 13. It reads, "For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed themselves out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water." In this verse, we see that the people of Yah, His people, have committed two evils. They forsook Him as the Almighty, the one and only true Creator. They hewed out cisterns for themselves, meaning they tried to make their own way, follow their own instructions, and be their own sufficiency. So the two evils: forsook Him, the Almighty, the one and true Creator, and hewed out cisterns for themselves. If we back up to verses 8, 11, and 12 in this chapter, we will see the context of verse 13. Verse 8 says, "The priest didn't say, 'Where is Yahuwah?' And those handling the law didn't know me. The rulers transgressed against me. The prophets prophesied by Baal, and they followed that which is not prophet." 11 through 12. Has a nation ever changed gods when they aren't even gods? But my people have exchanged their glory for that which does not profit. Heavens be appalled at this. Be shocked. Be utterly devastated, declares Yahuwah. Baal is the word for husband and Lord, Lord, and was represented by the Hebrew letter ayin, which looks like an I in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew. This video presentation is to examine those two evils of forsaking and changing God and rejecting His law, the Torah. Now, when it comes to the topic of the divine and our eternal salvation, there are two things every individual must get correct to be partakers in His kingdom. If we do not have these two things correct, our salvation is at risk. Yes, it is that serious. We have no excuse this day and age with all the readily available information out there. So what are the two things we must get right? Well, the first thing and the most important thing to get correct is the identity of who the Creator is. For there are many called gods and many lords who are not really gods, but there is only one true God, the Creator who started it all. The second thing we must get correct is we must follow the instructions of the true Creator. In the biblical Hebrew familial relationship, a true daughter or son is identified by their obedience to the father. It's not so much about bloodline, as we all stem from Adam. If a person disobeys their father's instructions, they could lose their inheritance. Just like many in antiquity got this wrong and suffered the consequences, we too must get this right. Romans 1:18 through 25 says, "For the wrath of Yahuwah is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who hold down the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of Yahuwah is manifest in them. For Yahuwah manifested it unto them. For the invisible things of him since the creation of the world are clearly seen, being perceived through the things that are made, even his everlasting power and divinity, that may be without excuse. Because that knowing God, they glorified him not as God, neither gave thanks, but became vain in their reasonings, and their senseless heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the incorruptible Yahuwah for the likeness or the form of an image of corruptible man, and of birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore Yah gave them up in their lust of their hearts unto uncleanness, that their bodies should be dishonored among themselves. For that they exchanged the truth of Yahuwah for a lie, and worshipped and served the creation rather than, or alongside, it's the Greek word para, alongside the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. So they changed the glory of Yahuwah for the likeness of an image of corruptible man, and worship man and beast in conjunction with the Creator. They exchanged the truth for a lie. Most religions of the world are worshiping, whether directly or indirectly, whether they know it or not, the image of a man, an animal, the sun, the moon, and or the stars, or some creation of their own in some form or fashion. And they all have their own way and instructions on how to worship their perceived image of their God. Yahuwah warned us of this in Deuteronomy chapter 4. He says, "Therefore watch yourselves very carefully, since you saw no form on the day that Yahuwah spoke to you at Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Beware lest you act corruptly by making a carved image for yourselves, in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any animal that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the air, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the water under the earth. And beware lest you raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of heaven, you may be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them. Things that Yahuwah, your Elohim, has allotted to all the peoples under the whole heaven." Regretfully, our ancestors did not listen and mixed in with the other nations and partook in their practices. This caused a domino effect that had a major impact on the people of faith today. The prophet Jeremiah tells us that we would inherit lies. Jeremiah 16 verses 19 through 21. "O Yahuwah, my strength and my stronghold, my refuge in the day of trouble. To you shall the Gentile nations come from the ends of the earth and say, our fathers have inherited nothing but lies, worthless things in which there is no profit. Can man make for himself gods? Such are not gods. Therefore, behold, I will make them know this once. I will make them know my power and my might." and they shall know that my name is Yahuwah. That's right, we have inherited nothing but lies by our false teachers. A majority of all mainstream religions in the world either have the image of a man or beast or celestial object as a representation of their God, and or they follow their own way and instructions on how to worship him. There is usually some type of man, animal, sun, or moon worship involved. For example, take Islam. In Islam, Allah, or God, is the absolute one, the all-powerful and all-knowing ruler of the universe, and the creator of everything in existence. According to Islam, God is neither a material nor a spiritual being. They follow the teachings and instructions of their prophet Muhammad and do not associate God with any personal image, but they do have the symbol of a crescent moon with a star in it, which can be traced back to an Arabian moon god. They march and worship around the Kaaba, which is a black box known as the House of Allah, and it is said to house a meteorite in it, which is supposedly from the moon. Buddhism. Buddhists seek to reach a state of nirvana, following the path or the way of the Buddha. Siddhartha Gautama, who went on a quest for enlightenment around the 6th century BC. There is no belief in a personal God. Buddhists believe that nothing is fixed or permanent and that change is always possible. Essentially, they are their own God. You can see the sun and the solar rays behind the head of Buddha. This is common in all sun worship cults. Hinduism. Hindus believe in a universal soul or God called Brahman. Brahman takes on many forms that some Hindus worship as gods or goddesses in their own right. Hindus believe that there is a part of the Brahman in everyone, and that is called the Atman. The Hindu Trinity consists of Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer, again depicted with a sun disk behind their deity. Babylonian religion. The ancient Babylonians recognized the doctrine of a trinity, or three persons in one God, as appears from a composite god with three heads forming part of their mythology, and the use of the equilateral triangle, also as an emblem as such Trinity in unity. This is illustrated in the characters of Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. It is said that Tammuz, the son, is Nimrod, the father, just reborn or born again. Semiramis is noted as the Queen of Heaven, who is later to be repackaged and delivered to us as Ashtaroth or Ishtar, Isis, Demeter, Artemis, Diana of the Ephesians, and others. The Egyptian religion. Ancient Egyptian religion was a complex system of polytheistic beliefs and rituals that formed an integral part of the ancient Egyptian society. It centered on the Egyptians' interactions with many deities believed to be present in and in control of the world, with the Egyptian trinity of the father Osiris, the mother Isis, and the son Horus, also depicted with a sun around their heads. Greek mythology. The Olympic triad of Zeus, king of the gods, Athena, goddesses of war and intellect, and Apollo, god of the sun, culture, and music. In the Greek culture, Zeus was the name for Nimrod, Athena for Semiramis, and Apollo for Tammuz. In the Roman religion, the first citizens of what would become Rome believed they were watched over by the spirits of their ancestors, and they added a triad of gods to these spirits. From an initial array of gods and spirits, Rome added to this collection to include both Greek gods as well as a number of foreign cults. As the empire expanded, the Romans refrained from imposing their own religious beliefs upon those they conquered. However, this inclusion must not be misinterpreted as tolerance. This combining of religions is what is known as syncretism. It's an amalgamation of religions, and this continued until the 4th century with the formation of the Catholic or Universal Church. Basically, Roman from Greek, from Egyptian, from Babylonian theologies have been cut, pasted, and rebranded over the years. We see in Ezekiel chapter 8 a glimpse into the shadow picture of the idea behind the false Messiah, represented by an image of Tammuz and the relation to the sun worship, S-U-M. Ezekiel, when in exile, is given a vision and taken into the temple in Jerusalem. Chapter 8, verse 3, it says, "The form of a hand reached out and took me by the hair of my head. Then the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the sky, brought me toward Jerusalem, and in visions that came from God took me through the doors of the inner gate that faced north, where an image that provoked God's jealous anger and had been erected." So they had erected an image. In verse 5, "Then he told me, 'Son of man, look up toward the north.' So I looked off toward the north. Suddenly, off toward the north, facing the gate that led to the altar, the image that provoked God's jealousy was standing near the entrance." This passage is important in our understanding of who the Anti-Messiah is, the image on the altar. In verse 11, he sees the 70 elders with their own carved idol saying, "God doesn't see us." Then Ezekiel sees a woman weeping for Tammuz. In verse 14 it says, "Then he brought me unto the entrance of the gate of Yahuwah's temple, which faced the north. That's where I saw a woman seated, weeping for Tammuz." Now, if you recall from the Babylonian religion, Tammuz is the reincarnated version of his father Nimrod. After the death of Tammuz, who was killed by a wild boar during a hunting excursion, his mother Semiramis declared 40 days of weeping, and they sacrifice a pig in his honor. This is why Catholics have 40 days of Lent, and traditionally ham is served at Easter. Ezekiel 8:16. "Then he brought me to the inner court of Yahuwah's temple. There at the entrance of Yahuwah's temple, between the porch and the altar, were 25 men with their backs toward Yahuwah's temple and facing the east, prostrating themselves to the sun." At Yah's creation, he set the sun and the moon and the wandering stars, commonly called planets, to run their course through each sign of the Mazzaroth throughout the year. These signs, which are pictographs of people and animals, tell the story of redemption of the one who would come. Over time, these stories would become corrupted into zodiac prognostication, which we know as astrology. The nations would worship the man in the middle, who is the sun, S-O-N, which is analogous to the S-U-N. Ezekiel sees an image and idols that are in the temple at the altar, and he sees Yahuwah's people are worshiping the S-U-N or the S-O-N, Tammuz, the man in the middle. Now this brings us to our last world religion of discussion. To the surprise of many, the most popular religion in the world is Christianity. That's right, Christianity. Now don't turn off the video just yet. I'm not suggesting the Bible and the Messiah is the false religion. That is legit. But I'm talking about the religion of Christianity, which falls into the category of Babylonian Sun, S-U-N-S-O-N, God worship. Not all of the 30,000 plus sects of Christianity fall into this, but for the most part, a majority of mainstream Christianity does. The God of the religion of Christianity, Jesus H. Christ, is often depicted with a sun and solar ray behind his head. So Catholicism and Christianity, as the daughter of the Catholic Church, most Christians, not all, but most, believe there is only one God, whom they call Father, as Jesus Christ taught them. Yet they recognize Jesus as the Son of God and God himself at the same time, and believe God functions as a Trinity or some variation of it, even a binarity. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Stemming from Catholicism, they have an image of Jesus as their God with a solar disk behind him, which gets its origins from sun worshippers. As a result of the combining of the world's religions and political instability in the Roman Empire, the religion of Catholicism was spawned, the universal church, and she eventually produced the Protestant child of Christianity. This needed to happen so that the Roman Empire could implement a one-world religion and control the masses. It is in the name of Jesus H. Christ that the Holy Torah has been abolished and the Son has been replaced and or has been amalgamated with God the Father. It's taught that Jesus is the incarnation of God, that he is God in the flesh. Most Christians would probably agree with the other religions being false, but would be appalled at the notion that they have been lied to about their Trinity. Many will argue that for some reason their Trinity, or even their bienity, supersedes all other Trinities. If you find yourself in this category, then ask yourself why. Why is my Trinity superior to any other Trinity, especially those that predate the Christian Trinity? Most do not realize that we have inherited nothing but lies and don't realize that our texts have been manipulated and twisted in an effort to get us to commit the two evils and worship something other than the true Creator and follow some other way. Jeremiah 8:7-9 says, "Even the stork in the heavens know her times, and the turtle dove swallow and crane keep the time of their coming. But my people know not the rules of Yahuwah. How can you say we are wise, and the law of Yahuwah is with us? But behold, the lying pen of the scribes has made it into a lie. The wise men shall be put to shame. They shall be dismayed and taken. Behold, they have rejected the commandments of Yahuwah, so that wisdom is in them." Those lies that we have inherited have come from the false teachers and scribes falsely manipulating the scriptures, trying to get us to commit the two evils. Even the Apostle Peter warned us of this. He warned about those twisting Paul's letters in the vein of lawlessness. Therefore, beloved, since you are waiting for these, be diligent to be found by him without spot or blemish and at peace, and count the patience of our Lord as salvation, just as our beloved brother Paul, who wrote to you according to the wisdom given him, as he does in all his letters when he speaks in them of these matters. There are some things in them that are hard to understand, which the ignorant and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do the other scriptures. You therefore, beloved, knowing this beforehand, take care that you are not carried away with the error of lawless people and lose your own stability. 2 Peter 3:14-17. So the question remains, who is the true creator and what is his way? If he and does he function as a trinity? We will let our fingers do the walking and the scriptures do the talking. First, let's focus on his way. What is his way? Deuteronomy 5:32 through 33. You shall be careful, therefore, to do as Yahuwah your Elohim has commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. You shall walk in all the way that Yahuwah your Elohim has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may go well with you, and that you may live long in the land that you shall possess. Psalm 119:33. Teach me, O Yahuwah, the way of your statutes, and I will keep it to the end. Verse 35. Lead me in the path of your commandments, for I delight in it. This is Yah's way, his path. It's his word. It's his Torah. Torah simply means instructions. The true Messiah referred to himself as the way, the truth, and the life. We are to follow him. Romans 3:26. He, Yahuwah, wanted to demonstrate at the present time that he himself is righteous and that he justifies anyone who has the faithfulness of Yahusha. 1 John 3:7. Little children, let no one deceive you. Whoever practices righteousness is righteous, as he is righteous. Anyone who has the faithfulness of the Messiah and walks in righteousness as he walked is a son or daughter of the Most High. He fulfilled the Torah and walked it out in its full manifestation and showed us what it looks like to live the Torah in the flesh. The servant is not greater than the master. Romans 10:3 through 4. For being ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness and seeking to establish their own, speaking of Israel, they did not submit themselves to the righteousness of God. For Messiah is the goal of the Torah as a means to righteousness for everyone who keeps trusting. He warned and confronted the Pharisees and the scribes of their sin, and they crucified him for it. The Pharisees and Torah scholars questioned Yahusha. Why don't your disciples walk according to the tradition of the elders? Remember the elders in the temple in Ezekiel's vision? Why do they eat bread with unwashed hands? And he said to them, rightly did Isaiah prophesy about you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, and in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men, having left behind the commandment of Yahuwah. You hold on to the tradition of men. He was also telling them, you set aside the commands of Yahuwah in order that you may validate your own tradition. What is a commandment of men? Simple enough. It is any doctrine that is not a commandment of Yah. It seems not much has changed in all these years. Our religious leaders have set aside the commandments of Yahuwah for their own way. They've changed and removed his holy days and Sabbaths and participate in their own holy days. This is why the Messiah says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name and drive out demons in your name and perform many miracles in your name? Then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Get away from me, you workers of lawlessness. Yes, keeping the Torah is that serious. It prevents us from entering in the kingdom. I believe this to be one major reason we see so much depravity within the Christian church. One of my favorite verses growing up in the Christian faith was Hosea 4:6. However, it is typically not quoted in its entirety. Hosea 4:6 says, "For my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." And that's usually where it stops. But keep reading. It says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Well, what is that knowledge? Since you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you from being my priest. Since you forgot the Torah of your Elohim, so I will forget your children. People have rejected knowledge, which is the Torah. The doctrines of men have given us replacement dispensational theology, which divides Yah's people and classifies them into separate groups. We were taught those laws were for them back then. Violating the Torah is sin, and being in sin keeps us under the curse of the law, in bondage. The same issues that they dealt with back then still plagues us today. We have hewn out cisterns for ourselves and made our own way. Nevertheless, Yahuwah had warned both Israel and Judah by means of every prophet and seer. Turn away from your evil practices and keep my commandments and statutes according to the entire law that I gave your ancestors and that I sent to you through my servants the prophets. But they would not listen. Instead, they were stubborn, just like their ancestors had been, and did not believe in Yahuwah, their Elohim. They rejected statutes, the covenant that he made with their ancestors, and his warnings that he gave them. They pursued meaningless and became meaningless themselves, as they followed the lifestyles of the nations that surrounded them, a practice that Yahuwah had warned them not to do. They abandoned all the commands given by Yahuwah their Elohim crafted for themselves, cast images of 2 calves constructed by Asherah, worshipped all of the stars of heaven, and served Baal, the Lord. They passed their sons and daughters through the fire, practiced divination, cast spells, and sold themselves to the practice what Yahuwah considered to be evil, thereby provoking him. 2 Kings 17:13-17. To reject the keeping of the commandments of Yahuwah is equivalent to not believing in him. This is one of the 2 evils. Many in the faith profess to have a personal relationship with God and or the Son, but most do not even know his name. Many have not even questioned why their names were changed. Why do our English Bibles say Lord or God everywhere instead of their true names? There is no salvation in any other name. Well, what is the name? Why is there a cover-up? Many do not follow his Torah, and they change his identity, hewing out cisterns for themselves. I believe that to be one of the reasons why most of Christendom does not keep the Torah, because the false teachers have not properly taught who Yahuwah is and who the Messiah is, thus forsaking him and committing the first evil. If we would just take the entire book in context and not dismiss the front half of the book, we would know who they are. Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah our Elohim, Yahuwah is one. The Messiah agrees with this in Mark 12:29. Yahusha answered, the most important commandment is, Hear, O Israel, our Yahuwah, Yahuwah Elohim, Yahuwah is one. So who should we believe? Is he one? Is he 3 in 1 or 2 in 1? Should we not believe the words from the lips of our Messiah, who said, and Yahusha answered him, it is written, you shall worship Yahuwah your Elohim, and him only shall you serve. Luke 4 verse 8. If you go to just about any Christian website and look at their statement of faith or what they believe, you will see, we believe that there is one God, externally existent in three persons, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So why not believe in what is written like the Messiah said and make that their statement of faith? Why not believe the words of the true Messiah when he says Yahuwah is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth, John 4:24. Right there, the Messiah says Yahuwah is spirit. Many today do not worship him in the spirit, but rather they worship him in the flesh, in the image of a man. They tell you that God came to earth in the flesh as the man Jesus H. Christ. The Messiah said to pray to his God, our God, just like this, our Father who is in heaven. He is in heaven. He is not on the earth in a flesh suit praying to himself. What do the scriptures say? Hosea 11:9. I will not execute my burning anger. I will not again destroy Ephraim. For I am El and not a man, the Holy One in your midst, and I will not come in wrath. Numbers 23:19. Yahuwah is not man, that he should lie, or a son of man, that he should change his mind. Has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, will he not fulfill it? He has said, he has spoken, he is not man, he is not the Son of Man. From the lips of our Messiah, he professes that he is the Son of Man. And this is an idiom for being a human being born of flesh and blood. This phrase is used of him over 80 times, so there is no doubt in the reader's mind that he was 100% human being and not some angelic or hybrid spirit being. The God in flesh concept was a prevalent teaching in the philosophical Hellenistic period back then and is still today. John 5:26, for as the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son also to have life in himself. And he has given him authority to execute judgment because he is the Son of Man. So that authority was given to him. John 3:6, that which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. The Apostle Paul confirms this. Paul, a servant of Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be an apostle, set apart for the gospel of Yahuwah, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures concerning his Son, who was descended from David according to the flesh, and was declared to be the Son of Yahuwah in power according to the Spirit of holiness, by his resurrection from the dead, Yahushua HaMashiach, our King. Romans 1:1-4. Romans 8:3. For God has done what the law, weakened by the flesh, could not do, by sending his Son in the likeness of sinful flesh. And for sin, he condemned sin in the flesh. So the Son came as flesh. Legally, the Messiah had to be a descendant of David according to the flesh to inherit the throne. He was not born of the Spirit until after he was baptized by John and received the Holy Spirit, just like the rest of us. Having this straight in our understanding of who we worship is critical for our salvation. It helps us to identify who the false Messiah is. Many will teach that the Messiah is a half-breed, fully God and fully man. But as we saw earlier, Yahuwah is spirit, and he does not change his substance. But he has changed how he communicates throughout the ages in a variety of ways. In Hebrews chapter 1, verse 12, Yahuwah, having spoken in former times in fragmentary and varied fashion to the forefathers of the prophets, has in these last days spoken to us by a Son, whom he appointed to be the heir of everything, and through whom he also made the ages. Yahuwah communicated his word to us through his prophet that was prophesied of in the Torah given to Moses, that he would be like him and that he would be amongst his brethren. The Messiah made an open show of the devil and his works, disclosing who is behind all the chaos. He said that many would come in his name, even claiming that he was the Messiah. Matthew 24 verse 5, because many will come in my name and say that I am the Messiah, and they will deceive many people. He goes on to explain end-time events and parallels the prophecies of Daniel to what is to come. Matthew 24:15, when therefore ye see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, let him that reads understand. So he's speaking of the abomination of desolation which Daniel spoke of. What are we to understand? We need to understand world history and the anti-Messiah type figure, Antiochus IV Epiphanes. This name, Epiphanes, means God manifest. His original name was Mithridates, maybe. The religious cult of Mithraism competed with Christianity throughout the Roman Empire and eventually was syncretized within Christianity. The iconic scenes of Mithras show him being born from a rock, slaughtering a bull, and sharing a banquet with the god Sol, or the sun. Antiochus was a Gentile who was responsible for setting up the image of Zeus in the Second Temple period. And this is recorded in 2 Maccabees, which conveniently has been removed from most Western and Protestant Bibles. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 6. Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers, and not to live after the laws of God, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Zeus, Olympius, and that in Gerizim, of Jupiter, Zeus, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. Besides that, brought in things which were not lawful. The altar also was fulfilled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days of ancient fast, or to profess himself to be a Jew at all. When we understand that Zeus was set up in the temple, fulfilling the prophecy of Daniel, it gives us a shadow picture of the false Messiah and what the abomination of desolation was. It was common in those days for when a conquering nation defeated another nation for them to set up their god over the conquered nation's god. In Greco-Roman theophany, they believed that the gods would come down in the form of a flesh and blood human being. Acts 14:11 through 12. When the crowd saw that what Paul had done, they shouted in the Lycaonian language, "The gods have become like men and come down to us." They began to call Barnabas Zeus and Paul Hermes, because he was the main speaker. As presented earlier, this concept is deeply rooted in all the world's religions, stemming from Babylon to Egypt to Greece and to Rome. They all have traits of sun, S-U-N, and S-O-N worship, and planetary bodies. Psalm 19 says the heavens declare the story. They tell the story of the Messiah as the Son of Man riding on the clouds. Most of this knowledge has been lost or has been twisted into worshiping a false solar image of Yahuwah. The false Messiah is an image, a representation and counterfeit of the true Messiah. The term Antichrist is not just against Christ, but it means in place of. The image is in place of the true Messiah. It's like antipasta. When Daniel speaks of the end-time false Messiah, he relays a vision and says, "And it, or he, waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and some of the host and of the stars it cast down to the ground and trampled upon them." So knowledge of the message of the stars has been mostly lost amongst the church. Yea, it, the image of the beast, magnified itself, even to as the prince of the host, and from him the continual burnt offering was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and the host was given over to it, or to him, together with the continual burnt offering through transgression, and it cast down truth, the Torah, to the ground, and it wrought and prospered. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said unto that certain one who spoke, "How long shall be the vision concerning the continual burnt offering and the transgression that causes desolation, the removal of the Torah, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot?" And he said unto me, "Unto 2,300 evenings and mornings, then shall the sanctuary be victorious." The God of this world truly has blinded many. Just like there are many characters in the Bible that are types of Messiah, there are also types of the anti-Messiah. The precursor for the end times false Messiah is foreshadowed in the works of Antiochus and him setting up Zeus in the temple. Many from days of old suffix their names with the names of their gods. The US or us appears in many names derived from Zeus. For example, Olympus, Claudius, Maximus, Gladius. This US is suffixed in the name Jesus. Throughout the Bible, names have meaning and significance and are prefixed or suffixed with the true Creator's name. Example, Isaiah equals Yeshayahu. Jeremiah is Yirmiyahu. Elijah is Eliyahu, etc. Even today, this is commonplace in the Western world. We have sons of the Father with last names like Jack's son, Albert's son, Peter's son, etc. Now, I am not suggesting that the character labeled Jesus in the Bible is not the true Messiah. I am saying that the image given to us in that name through the Roman Catholic Church is the false Messiah. The name Jesus has no Hebraic significance. It is meaningless when it pertains to the things of Yah and is closer to being related to the name of Zeus. He became great, even as the prince of the host. And the regular burnt offering was taken away from him, and the place of his sanctuary was overthrown. And a host will be given over to it, to gather with the regular burnt offering because of transgression. And it will throw the truth to the ground, and will act and prosper. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to the one that spoke, "For how long is the vision concerning the regular burnt offering and the transgression that makes desolate, and giving over the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot?" This word desolate is shamim. To devastate or to make desolate comes from Baal worship. You see in this example Baal, Shemin, the three gods. His power will be mighty, but it will come not by his strength alone. The Christian church will help. He will cause extraordinary devastation and succeed in what he does. He will destroy both the powerful and the holy people. By his cunning he will cause deceit to prosper under his hand, and he will consider himself superior. He will destroy many, taking them unaware. He will even stand up against the Prince of Princes, the truth of the real Messiah. Yet he will be broken, not by human hands, but by the truth of Yahuwah's word. Daniel 8:24-25. From the book of Revelation, we see that the end-time false Messiah is an image of the beast, coming from the beast. We must remember that the book of Revelation is a vision, and it's a book of symbols that represent something. It is not all entirely literal. Let's examine some of the symbolic language in relation to the anti-Messiah and how it fits into the image of the largest faith on earth. Revelation 12:1. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. One of the Pope's crowns has the Queen of Heaven on his mitre, and it is sold to us as Mary, the Mother of God. It says, Then I saw a beast, Catholicism, Christianity, rising out of the sea, a multitude of Gentile nations, that had 10 horns, or the 10 lost tribes of Israel, scattered amongst the nations, and 7 heads, the 7 churches. And his horns were 10 royal crowns, and upon his head were slanderous names. Israel was given over to idolatry. Now the fourth beast, Daniel 7:23, that I saw was like a leopard. So Christianity spread quickly like a leopard. His feet like a lion's, the false Leo, and his mouth like a bear who devours Ursa Major. And the dragon, Draco, the Hydra, the multi-headed monster, gave his power and his throne and great authority. One of his heads seemed to have been slain, but the fatal wound was healed, was raised from the dead. The whole earth was amazed and followed the beast, the image of Jesus brought to us through Catholicism and Christianity. And they worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. They made Jesus as God. They also worshipped the beast, chanting, Who is like the beast, and who can make war against him? The beast was given a mouth, uttering great boasts and blasphemies, proclaiming himself to be God, removing the Torah. He was given authority to act for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth with blasphemies against God to slander his name and his tabernacle, that is, those dwelling in heaven, corrupting the message in the heavens. Revelation 1-6. Thus he said, As for the fourth beast, there shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms, and it shall devour the whole earth, and trample it down, and break it to pieces. As for the 10 horns out of the kingdom, 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from the former ones, and shall put down 3 kings. Kings are worshipped as God, like a trinity. He shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law. The Torah and the feast were abolished in the name of Jesus. And they shall be given into his hand for a time, times and a half a time. Daniel 7:23-25. Picking back up in Revelation 7-9. He was also permitted to make war against the saints, the Kedoshim, and overcome them. And he was given authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation. He's the God of this world. And all who dwell on the earth shall worship him, everyone whose name was not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. Revelation verse 10. Then I saw another beast, the Pope, rising out of the earth. He had 2 horns, like a lamb. He's an impostor, a vicar of Christ, the Pope wearing a mitre hat. He spoke like a dragon. He exercises all the authority of the first beast as the victor of Christ before him, and he makes the earth and all those who dwell in it worship the first beast, the image of Jesus as God, whose fatal wound was healed when he was raised from the dead. He performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven in the sight of men, and he deceives those who dwell on the earth through the signs he is permitted to perform, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image, a crucifix of God dying on a cross, in honor of the beast who has the sword wound yet has lived. The second beast was permitted to give life to the image of the first beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause all who would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He also causes all the small and the great, the rich and the poor and free and the slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or upon their forehead, Ash Wednesday, the cross of the mark. And so no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Herein is wisdom. So they just gave us a vision, right? This is a vision. Herein is wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is a number of man, and his number is 666. It says we are to calculate the number. It means to add it up or even to decipher it. This number is a symbol, and it's the Greek letters Chi, Psi, Sigma, and it's a symbol of a cross, a snake, and a mark. When you add the numbers up, you get Chi is 600, Psi is 60, Stigma, stick, is 6, the mark, 666. It's the number of man. The number 6 biblically represents the number of man. This is a good indicator of the three persons of the Trinity. The Catholic Christian religion has dominated the world and together is the world's most popular religion. Not such a narrow gate, is it? It truly is an amalgamation of all religions. The most predominant Christian nation is the United States of America, whose currency dominates the entire earth. A nation that has the Eye of Horus floating over a pyramid on their dollar bills. A nation with a large Asherah pole at the Capitol. A large statue of Sol Invictus in the New York harbor. A nation who makes you pledge your allegiance to them. Has the power to sanction other nations and can prohibit others from buying and selling. The United States is the daughter of the United Kingdom, with the U.S. being the military power of the world, the UK being the finance capital of the world, and the Vatican for religion out of Rome. The whole world truly is under the influence of the beast and its systems. Typically, after the U.S. invades another nation, its objective is to infiltrate, democratize it with Western governance and consumerism, and eventually proselytize it to make them take the mark of the beast in the name of the image of their God, Jesus. If that nation does not conform, they will be sanctioned and become irrelevant in worldly matters. Revelation 8:3 says, "For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." The spirit of Antichrist, the spirit of error, has changed his Sabbaths, has removed his laws, changed his feast days, tricked people into worshiping the creation of the Son, the S-U-N, and the Son, S-O-N, which is his image, alongside him, and have mixed and confused us like in the days of Babel by blending the Father and Son into one being. To further prove this point, that the image of Jesus is a false Messiah, is the image given to us as the beast, let's look at 2 Thessalonians. Now we ask you, brothers and sisters, concerning the coming of our Master Yahushua the Messiah, and are gathering together to him. Not to be shaken out of your mind or disturbed, either by a spirit or a word or a letter, as if through us, as the day of Yahuwah has come. Let no one deceive you in any way, for the day will not come unless the rebellion comes first and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the one destined to be destroyed. He opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he sits in the temple of God, proclaiming himself that he is God. The true Messiah never made this claim. Don't you remember that when I was still with you, I was telling you these things? And you know what now holds him back, for him to be revealed in his own time. The time is now. For the mystery of lawlessness is already operating. Only there is one who holds back just now until he is taken out of the way. Then the lawless one will be revealed. The King Yahushua will slay him with the breath of his mouth and wipe out with the appearance of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is connected to the activity of Satan with all power and signs and false wonders, and with every kind of wicked deception toward those who are perishing. They perish because they did not accept the love of the truth. The Torah is the truth, Psalm 119, 142, so as to be saved. For this reason, God sends them a delusion to lead them to believe what is false, so that they may be judged. All those who did not believe in the truth, the Torah, but delighted in unrighteousness. Those who reject the Torah and worship the image of Jesus as God are in a delusion. The lawless one has been revealed. Just like Tammuz and Zeus were set up in the temple of the physical altar, the image of Jesus H. Christ has been propagated to us via the Roman Catholic Church as the image of a man who is God. In his name, he has abolished the Torah, bringing about lawlessness. The false Messiah is not sitting in a literal third temple that is to be built at some later date. The physical temple was destroyed, and it was revealed to us that we are the temple where the Spirit of Yah lives. The ascension of Isaiah 4:1 through 11. And now Hezekiah and Joseph, my son, these are the days of the completion of the world. After it is consummated, Beliar, the great ruler, the king of this world, will descend, who hath ruled it since it came into being. Yea, he will descend from his firmament in the likeness of a man. A lawless king, the slayer of his mother, who himself, even this king, will persecute the plant which the 12 apostles of the beloved have planted. Of the 12, one will be delivered into his hand, Judas. This ruler in the form of that king will come, and there will come with him all the powers of this world, and they will listen unto him in all that he desires. And at his word the sun will rise at night, and he will make the moon to appear the 6th hour. And all that he has desired he will do in the world. He will do and speak like the beloved, and will say, I am God, before me there has been none. And all the people in the world will believe him, and they will sacrifice to him, and they will serve him, saying, This is God, and beside him there is no other. And they gather number of these who shall have been associated together in order to receive the beloved. He will turn aside after him, and there will be the power of his miracles in every city and region. And he will set up his image before him in every city. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, the image of the God-man Jesus at the altar of the hearts of the people in the temple of the church, which is the body of Messiah, which consists of people. Similar to what we saw in Ezekiel with the image on the altar and the people worshiping the sun, the S-U-N, or the S-O-N, Tammuz, we see it today in the temple of the body of believers. Jeremiah 17:1 says, Judah's sin is written with an iron pen and with a point of a diamond, engraved on the tablet of their heart and on the horns of their altars. Proverbs 3:3, let kindness and truth never leave you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart. 2 Corinthians 3:2-3, you are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. It is clear that you are a letter from Messiah, delivered by us, written not with ink, but with the Ruach of the living God, not on tables of stone, but on tablets of the human hearts. Ezekiel 14:3, Son of man, these men have taken their idols into their hearts and set the stumbling block of their iniquity before their faces. Should I indeed let myself be consulted by them? 1 Corinthians 1:23, but we preach Mashiach crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews and folly to the Gentiles. They were doing the same thing. They had put up the God-man in their heart as an idol. Ezekiel 14:6-8, therefore you are to tell Israel's house, this is what Yahuwah Elohim says, turn away, turn from your idols and abandon your detestable practices. For when a native Israeli or a resident alien abandons me to set up idols in his heart behind my back and then places a stumbling block of his iniquity right in front of his own face, then approaches a prophet to inquire of me on behalf of his own self-interest, I, Yahuwah, will answer him myself. I'm determined to oppose that person and make him an example. Proverbs will be written about him when I eliminate him from my people. Then you'll know that I am Yahuwah. Well, we know what the stumbling block is and who that is. The physical to spiritual parallel is that the Torah that was written on the tablets of stone is to be written on the tablets of our hearts. The altar is where sacrifice is made, and we are to circumcise our hearts to follow after his Torah. Another parallel to idol worship is seen in the days of Hezekiah. The people worshiped the snake on the cross rather than the Creator that brought them their healing. 2 Kings 18:4, he, Hezekiah, removed the high places and broke the pillars and cut down the Asherah poles. And he broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made. For until those days the people of Israel had made offerings to it. It was called Neshutan. The snake on the pole brought healing and deliverance to the people of Israel. It was eventually risen up and elevated in worship. Likewise, Jesus H. Christ has been risen up in worship. People are worshiping that which was used to deliver them, and instead are worshiping the serpent on a stick, rather than the actual one who brings the deliverance, which is Yahuwah. We are to worship the Creator in spirit and truth. The spirit of something is its intent. Yahuwah's Torah is his intent, his spirit in us, making us born again as it gives us instructions on how to love and honor him and others. Romans 7:14, for we know that the law is spiritual, but I am flesh and soul under sin. Jeremiah 31:31, behold, days are coming, it is a declaration of Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Not like the covenant I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land. For they broke my covenant. Though I was a husband to them, it is a declaration of Adonai. But this, the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, it is a declaration of Yahuwah. I will put my Torah within them. Yes, I will write it on their heart, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. Ezekiel 36, starting in 28. I scattered them among the nations, so they were dispersed through the countries. According to their way and their deeds I judged them. Wherever they went among the nations, they profaned my holy name, since it was said about them, These are the people of Yahuwah. Yet they had to leave his land. But I had concern for my holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the nations, wherever they went. Therefore say to the house of Israel, Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, I do not do this for your sake, house of Israel, but for my holy name, which you profaned among the nations where you went. I will sanctify my great name, which has been profaned among the nations, which you have profaned among them. The nations will know that I am Yahuwah. It is a declaration of Yahuwah, when I am sanctified in you before their eyes. For I will take you from the nations, gather you out of the countries, and bring you back to your own land. Then I will sprinkle the clean water on you, and you will become clean from all your uncleanness and from all your idols. Moreover, I will give you a new heart. I will put a new spirit within you. I will remove the stony heart from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. I will put my ruach within you. That is the desires to keep his way, his Torah. Then I will cause you to walk in my laws, so you will keep my rulings and do them. Then you will live in the land that I gave to your fathers. You will be my people, and I will be your God. Well, those days are right now. The Spirit of Yahuwah has been poured out. Right now, we are to be pierced in the heart. Repent of all the ways and instructions the religions of the world has taught us, and we are to be baptized or immersed in the Spirit of Yahuwah with the intent to keep his Torah. If we do this, we will not fall victim to committing the two evils our ancestors committed. Please, brothers and sisters, I beg of you, stop participating in the Babylonian practices of Christmas, Easter, Valentine's, and Halloween, etc. Be set apart and turn to his Sabbaths and his Moedim, his feast days. Stop following false teachers who tickle our ears and promote the image of the false Messiah, and turn to the true Creator and to his true Messiah. Acts 4:26 says, The kings of the earth took their stand, and the rulers were gathered together against Yahuwah and against his Mashiach. The son of perdition, the lawless one, has been revealed. It is the image given to us by the Roman Catholic Church and the Christian Church as Jesus H. Christ and three persons of the Trinity. This image has been passed down from generation to generation, stemming all the way back from Babylon. The temple is the body of believers who have set up this image, who they perceive to be God on the altar of their hearts. By doing this, they have brought about desolation and abomination, committing the two evils. The whole world truly is deceived, not knowing that the image sold to us as Jesus H. Christ is the Antichrist. I pray that if you still believe Jesus is God, that you would research this matter out more thoroughly for yourself. May you have blessing and shalom to you and yours.